Frankenweenie seems to be your most emotional and personal movie so far. We didn't feel those elements in the original short, so the need to upgrade from the short to a full feature film was something that you owed to yourself?
Well, I don't know if I thought of it that way because, I enjoyed doing, it was like one of the first short films I did. It was live action. It never got released, but at the same time, it was a satisfying experience for me. It took a while. It took many years. When I went back and looked at the original drawings, there was something in those drawings that, you're right, you couldn't quite get with a live-action character dog. And there was something about also the stop-motion medium, which I love, and the idea of going back more to the original drawings and doing a stop-motion, black and white, 3D, different new characters, new monsters, sort of expanding the canvas, just made it feel like a whole different project.
Mm-hmm. Your first experience of death had to do with your pet dog. Mm-hmm. And at what age was that, and what were the things that you realized about life then?
Well, it was a long process because I had the dog when I was really, really young, probably, 2 or 3. And then very early on, the doctor said that the dog wasn't going to live for very long because it had this thing called distemper. So, and I didn't understand anything about that sort of thing. So it was a really weird moment, but the dog ended up living for quite a long time. So there was always this strange, unknown thing that was going on. And I think that's where I always related the whole Frankenstein mythology, the sort of idea of bringing something back, the kind of wish fulfillment of that, because it was such a strong relationship. I had a love for my dog, and then I had a love for monster movies, and so the connection just seemed natural.
When did you start to think about all these Universal monster movies as an art form and probably as an influence to become a filmmaker?
Well, I think it was a major influence, and from when I was a small child. I mean, I used to watch them on TV, and I didn't know anything about. None of my parents or friends were in the movies, so I was just like a normal fan. But they really spoke to me, and it's interesting over the years as you watch them. I've watched them as a child, and then I don't watch them all the time, but every several years I'll kind of revisit them a bit, and I'm always struck by how beautiful and atmospheric and artful and amazing they are. And it's interesting because with having your own kids in modern society where everything's so quick and rapid and computer and fast cutting and editing, and you kind of go like, geez, is this going to be lost on people as a but what was interesting is that some kids, because the mood in those are so strong, they relate to it, which is amazing.
Years back, during an interview that we had for Ed Wood, you told me that your Burbank home was near a cemetery, and this partly explains why we always see a cemetery scene in your movies. Were you scared of it, or was it a place for exploration in your childhood?
Yeah, no, it wasn't scary at all, and it's interesting because I found it actually quite peaceful and quite emotional and contemplative. It was a place, because it's obviously not, you don't go to a cemetery and everybody's whooping it up, having a big party, unless maybe it's Mexico or somewhere on the Day of the Dead. But for the most part, it's very reflective, and I just found it to be quite emotional and quite spiritual and quite, I don't know, I found it a place of calm and of emotion. So for me, it was quite a peaceful, exciting, peaceful place.
Mm-hmm. The addition of Victor's classmates in this version of Frankenweenie is so full of movie references. Would you care to name them, or you prefer to leave it to the cult maniacs?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple of clear ones. I mean, there's a bit of Boris Karloff,
yes,
and there's a bit of Peter Lorre, and then some are just a bit more slightly vague.
The Japanese boy.
Yeah. Well, no,
I wasn't so sure about that.
No, he's because I grew up on Japanese science fiction movies.
Obviously, but you don't have human characters that are so famous from Japanese
No,
films. You have the
no, but it's more of
monsters,
the, yeah, but it's the type of, but also, so some of the references were movie references for the kids, and some of them were based on like real kids that I remember, and mixtures of two. So in the case of like Weird Girl or Toshiaki or Bob, you know, those are people that I remember. Those are like real kids I remember. And Nasser and Edgar have movie references, but they were kids I remember as well. So the whole thing was a mixture of both sets of memories, real and film.